My name is Zachary Traxler. It's Zachary-Traxler. I'm CEO and founder of Traxler Printing in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, so licensing I kind of fell into actually, but I started growing up in a screen printing shop. So my dad founded his shop in 1978. It was called Kaplan Graphics. They were making the first iterations in the 70s of graphic tees for Lazarus stores and a lot of big box retailers. My parents were never married, so I spent weekends coming up from Athens, Ohio to Columbus and learning how to print in my dad's shop. Learned to love and hate it as a kid. It was kind of like a chore, so I avoided it. You know, growing up, never thought it would be my career and fell back in love with it in my early 20s, and since then it's just blown up. We expanded our print-on-demand department. We moved away from Brother DTG, switched over to Epson, so we bought three. Well, it's all happened at the same time actually. We bought three Epson F2000s, we bought a Roland LEF 300, we replaced our VG wide format printer and with a new one, and then put in an embroidery machine. Other than that, we upgraded everything in the facility to prepare for our move here in 2019. I'm actually in the middle of that right now. I wish money wasn't an object, but we're in this like battle internally right now of whether we switch over to all rock presses or we go all M&R. We've kind of narrowed down to the selection that we want, but at the end of the day, I want as many colors on press, as many heads, the biggest dryer, the best like everybody wants. But between a Gauntlet 3 or a Challenger and the new Sprint 3000 dryer and some of the great stuff Ryan has with the rock system here, I haven't had a chance to look at it all yet. So. One of the biggest things I did was put too much trust in somebody that I thought could really handle their job. Unfortunately, they had a lot of outside things going on in their life, and this person was in a higher up position in my company, and I didn't recognize the negative impact that was happening in the business with morale, with clients, missing orders, and a lot of different things. And as a result, we lost quite a bit of money, but we caught it in enough time to pivot at the end of this year, make some changes for 2019, and we're flying. We've got the biggest people in the state of Ohio calling us to work for us, all at the same time. So it's like too many good problems as a result of a bad problem at this point. But we're just looking forward. So you got to be really. I guess a piece of feedback that I could give against that would be that numbers don't lie. So if you're ever hesitant based on a relationship that you have with somebody in your company and making a decision on what to do with that person, look at the numbers, and if the numbers are right, they don't lie. So execute on those. It's actually funny, yeah, I do. I don't necessarily think I ever had a particular idol in the industry, but as I go along and I meet people and I learn about them and what they're doing, running Alma, the NCAA licensing company, the vice president that was in place was Chad Sims, and the dude knows everybody. He grew up in the industry, so we recently hired him on as our VP of Biz Dev at Traxler Printing. And I'm a person of empowerment, so I really like to empower my managers and executives to just own it like they own the business, own everyday's tasks. It's all theirs. And bringing Chad into the mix and his connections and just his knowledge, and not being from the print side but the licensing side, has been a huge gain of knowledge for me, and I really look up to him for his experience in the industry and knowing everybody and being through all of it thick and thin. So that's who I currently look up to right now. Yeah. Honestly, I'm looking for the next CEO. I've got so much stuff going on. I've run 7 companies. So if somebody in my company wants to step up and learn my job, it's there for the taking. So it'll always be my business and my baby, but at the end of the day, again, I'm all about empowering my staff, and if they're asking the right questions and they're there on time and putting in the extra hours and not complaining, and we're all working towards that same goal, and they're executing and doing it well, then who knows, they might be the next CEO of Traxler Printing. I think that's two different parts to that question. I think if you're hiring somebody that's from the industry, that's been in the industry for a really long time, they may feel or act, or they may know it all, but it's probably not how your process and your shop is defined. And so one of the hardest things I've had to do in the last 10 years, bringing on some veterans in the printing industry, is retrain them, literally from taping the screen to pulling a shirt off the end of the dryer, putting it in the box. And so it's, if you can define and be really finite about your processes, but help them understand why that's different and you do it differently in your shop, that's going to go really far. Aside from that, new hires, it's always a struggle to help them understand why this person is doing that, or why they should be doing this, or why they're taping screens when they were hired to fold shirts. They're all a team, so. Well, I would say that a common trap for startup shops is that it's a race to the bottom. So when they're in like the screen printing Q&A on Facebook or talking to other shops, they're constantly like feeding off of their pricing matrices, but that's totally the opposite of what you should be doing. You first need to decide how you're going to mark up your garment and what kind of margins you want in that, and how you're going to apply those margins within your facility, whether you're counting that as profit or overhead, etc. How we do it in our shop is that we basically monthly or quarterly, depending on what's going on, analyze all of our material costs, labor costs. We track everything meticulously in spreadsheets and have written APIs that feed out of Printavo or other systems to track all of that costs and inefficiencies, and we make sure that we constantly address those inefficiencies, but we're present to the fact that we're not the cheapest, nor will we ever probably be the cheapest, and we don't care. We sell ourselves on quality. So there's that common triangle that you get, quality, speed, and price. At Traxler Printing, you only get to pick, and out of that triangle you get to pick two, but at Traxler Printing you only get to pick one. We never sacrifice quality. And so based on that, you're always going to pay our baseline price, but if you want it fast, you're going to pay a lot more. Or if you want it cheap, it's going to be a lot slower. Most of the time, what we're also doing is having healthy conversations with our large clients to help them understand our margins. So we have a great example that one of our largest clients was killing us. I mean, they were literally burying us with these crazy low price asks. And so what we did is we just built out a matrix and pivot tables and showed them, this is our ink cost, this is our overhead cost, this is what, we just defined everything based on the most common size job for them, and we were losing 40% against other jobs on theirs. And so we came up with a price that we agreed upon, which was 4 times the price that they were paying at the current time. And now they're literally just choking us out with work because it gives us the flexibility and, it just reassures us that we're getting paid for the effort that we're putting in. And as a result, everybody's morale is up. People are actually able to get raises now as a result because we're all making more money and putting out super awesome work. So. Yeah, so the first 5 years, on the heels of what I just said, we were constantly trying to compare ourselves to shops the same size in Columbus or shops a little bit bigger, and even the big guys in Columbus, and kind of averaging or amortizing their price into our own matrices. I'm not sure why we didn't go out of business sooner. But it's also, taking a look at how you do your buys when you're buying your apparel, how you're buying your apparel, whether it's in bulk and your equipment or your supplies. And sometimes you just hop on Craigslist. I mean, we do millions of dollars of business a year, and we're still on Craigslist looking for equipment, looking for ink, looking for whatever. And so that really helps us determine kind of all of that. But now we're in a position that we buy a lot, so we just do a lot of negotiation with our distributors, and they see it. Obviously, our numbers are increasing, doubling every quarter, every year, so it helps us out a lot. Facebook and Instagram, since day one. If you've got a smartphone and you know how to turn it on, if you're posting your work that your clients are allowing you to share on Facebook and Instagram, and not even advertising at this point, just really sharing the process behind it, explaining, educating your client base. We invite our clients in for tours on a regular basis to help them understand the process, because a lot of people think that you can just click and print and ship, and it's quite the opposite. If anybody out there is watching and you've got more than 5 employees, or it's just you know how labor intensive it is to get to win the customer, to win the deal, take the money, buy the shirts, print the shirts, everything that goes into that. It's not this instant gratification industry. It's a trade industry. It's not taught in school, so you've got to be self-taught or taught by somebody that knows what they're doing. And you're going to screw up a lot, and as a result, you're going to spend a lot of money screwing up. But the best thing I can say is just share your work. That's the cheapest, easiest access to millions and billions of people every day. Target market this year is, we've always focused on retail, but as I've been hired, I got headhunted this last year to run an NCAA brand that actually is in the highest end of fashion, is to kind of marry the capabilities that we have at Traxler with this NCAA market and just knock it out of the park. We're really focusing on ramping up our specialty printing too here in Q2, so stacking HD prints, in-house flock, on-press foil, all the hard shit nobody wants to do. That's what we're going to kill in 2019.